it's Amy with Paper Moon Journals, and I have this really cool folio that we're going to make with my collaboration with Bontik Vintage Designs. I'm using two different journal kits, the Shabby Wood and Vintage Shabby kits, and I've printed out from the journal pages two different pieces of the Shabby Wood and then all of the ephemera pages for the Vintage Shabby. I'm in love with the pages for the Vintage Shabby. We are just going to use them all up and make this folio. I have a plan, but then we veer off from that because I want to use all of the ephemera in this folio. It could be like a fun Happy Mail piece. I made a couple of them, and one of them I used to I made to look like dollhouse stuff. I added little dolls and things like that to it after it was completed. So these are really nice. They're perfect just the way they are, or if you want to add a theme to it later, you can do that as well. So once we folded that up at the 6-inch mark and then folded it in half, we take just a couple stripes off the bottom of this other page. Looks like it's almost 3 inches, 2 3/4 inches. And then glue that inside. If you were using double-sided scrapbooking paper, that would work. I just love these beautiful papers. They're my favorite, I think, because they're going to go with everything. I love that. Super versatile. Okay, so if we crease the piece we're going to glue for the inside, that makes it easier to glue down. And I like to cut out the seam. I do a really clumsy job of it here, and it's going to need quite a bit of tidying. But cut the seam out, and then I notice, oh wow, that looks pretty bad. So I'll go back in and tidy that up a little on both the flaps. If you want to ink this all up, now would be a good time. And if you're going to notch the pockets, it would be better to do it now than after we glue it down, which is when I do it. There is still enough room for me to get my circle punch in there to notch out the corners later, but it is much better if you do it now. Also, if I had been more careful to cut out the seam, then that, so that would have saved me a bit of time here. But I think the base is ready for us to glue in this other piece, our little 2 3/4 inch piece. I like to use glue stick. If you get it on there nice and thick, it won't come apart later. Get the glue all the way up to the edges. You use the adhesive of your choice. I'm too stingy with my double-sided tape to use that. And wet glue really warps the paper and it's kind of runny. What we want to do now is to line the crease that we made in our liner piece. Line up with the crease for the base. This will help it to be more sturdy, so it'll be double thickness on the top here, and once we glue the pockets up, that will reinforce the bottom portion. We'll glue that up, put things in the pocket, and that will make it sturdy so that the top half of this isn't flimsy and flapping. I'm just going to use the bottom of my glue stick to burnish everything down, since per usual, I don't have my bone folder over here. And I'll use my scissors to trim the edge. Normally I would, if I wasn't filming, I would just take this to my paper trimmer and put it on there to get a perfectly straight, nice, clean cut. But I'll do the best I can on camera here with you. These scissors are more pretty than they are functional as well. I'm pretty sure I've complained about that. I tried to clean the other ones with some kind of antibacterial wipe, and it turned it all weirdish brown orange and started to kind of disintegrate and crumble away. So be careful about what you clean your scissor handles with. They look way worse now than they did before I tried to clean them. Oh my goodness, I just used this glue, or I just made sure this was clear right before starting filming and haven't even used it once. It's just been sitting here. And okay, let me pause the camera. I'll get something to poke this clear, and then we'll get this glued down. Another tip would be if you had a dry wet wipe or a damp paper towel to wipe the glue instead of getting your fingers covered with glue, that would work. I discovered that I have this cute little highlighter here that looks like a bone folder to me. Looks like it's going to do just the job. So that's going to be our bone folder for today's filming. Then a thin line of glue, as thin as you can get, and as straight as you can, close to the edge. I don't think I did very good at either of those things, being straight or close to the edge. I'm going to use this again to try to burnish down that seam. There we go. I think it's looking pretty good already. It might look a little better if I had remembered to ink things up before. I'm going to use this beautiful rich dark blue by Graphic 45 and ink all around the edges and everything I can still reach. I'll speed that up. Okay, now the next thing we want to do is to do the flap up, and actually I should have done this before we lined the other piece. I have made a few of these. I never remember to do that. So I just cut a little strip from one of the scraps that we had, trimming this down, and use that to cover the little piece on the inside. No big deal, see? No measuring, no planning, still worked out. I'm going to use my mostly clean blue to just kind of ink up that white side a little. I also could have printed that two-sided, just printed some tea stain color or something on the back of that, like I did this other piece, the ephemera pieces. I love the ephemera kits. The page kits are beautiful too. I know I'll use a lot of those, but I thought, what can I do, that'll have fun using these? And I thought, let's make a folio. That's the best way to use up this really pretty ephemera. So I used one of the long skinny pieces all inked up to make a pocket on the flap up. And then let's use two of those ATC card-sized pieces to make pockets on the bottom. We could notch those out as well as if we wanted. And now that I've got the ink over here, I'm going to ink everything up. This is a great way where you can personalize your project, or how when I make things that are similar, they're not the same every time, because I don't refer back to the last one that I made to make sure that I use the exact same piece in the same place. And more often than not, I'd be more likely to make sure I didn't use the same piece in the same place so I could make it different and new. You can take these same pieces, the same instructions, and just make something different over and over again. Print out different pages for the background. Maybe use the vintage Shabby pages for the background, and then take all the ephemera from the Shabby wooden kit, and then use all the ephemera from the Shabby wooden kit to fill up the folio. I like this. So we just glue these ATC tags down in a U shape. I got a lot of glue on there, so I decided I'm going to tap them together and just share the glue to both the pockets. And that gives me an idea. When I'm doing that, I'm like, wait a minute, we need to make a floating pocket like that with two of these ATC tags. So that's definitely going to happen. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. I want to do that. So I think that's what we're going to do next here. I'm in the voiceover here, so I'm with you a little bit in suspense. I've done quite a few things since I filmed this. So yeah, I think this one we're gonna make that floating pocket. So this time we're just gonna glue them together in a U shape. And then to make it clear that it's a pocket and what side's the opening is, I'll go get my circle punch. Hold on. Okay, I've got my circle punch now. It's hard to remember to get everything over to the filming area. I feel like I have armloads of stuff I drag over here, and then when I'm done, I have to drag it all back because my crafting area is the opposite side of the room. But it's okay, because the punch fits inside here, and it would be fine if it wasn't notched as well. I just think it makes the pocket a little bit easier to see with the notch there. You can do it the way you like it. I will scoot this up so that it's in frame better in just a second here. I have so much fun with my crafting, I forget to look up at the camera and make sure that my shifting things around hasn't shifted it off out of frame. But I do look up and notice that. Ink this around first, front and back. Let's see, I printed tea stain on the back of all the ephemera pieces. Even if they end up being pockets, some of them, that's fine. So I find a couple of the small tags. And this, I veered off my plan, is what's happened here. So I'm like, ooh, floating pocket. What can we put in the floating pocket? And then I look at this, I'm like, oh, that makes a cute belly band. That's happening. I just put a little bit of glue on either side. And then, oops, I should have inked that up first. So I try to gently ink that up after I've added the glue. In my excitement and my enthusiasm for my idea. That happens so often. And then, oh, those little circles fit right in there. Like I had planned that, but it was fun. So that was exciting. So that'll go in this side pocket here. I can't get that up. Look what is wrong with my fingers today. Okay, there we go. The paper could get under there. All right, what else? Maybe put a couple more ATC cards in that pocket. Let's ink up some stuff. I'll speed that up. Oh, here, finally. I looked up and noticed I wasn't in frame anymore. So we've got that scooted up, and I'll speed up the inking of everything. So the film is moving 5 times normal speed. I decided that would make a nice tuck spot and was careful not to put glue on the side I could see was going to hang over the edge of the pocket. Some glue got in there where I didn't want it, so I used my letter opener to open the pocket up again. And then I want to use that little piece as a tuck spot on the pockets. I decided it looked nicer on the pocket on the left, and then inked up a couple small pieces of ephemera to tuck in there. And my mind is already working while I'm inking this up. Those stack of circles, I want to make those into like a little circle notepad or notebook. And I'm thinking about that and inking those up. Again, I find another small piece of ephemera to add a pocket on top of every one of those pockets. So we have layered pockets here. We have the big pocket in the back. And so I'm just holding that up to see what will fit and what I want to use for the pocket on the front. That's the one. So this time I made a gusseted pocket. On my first one, I didn't think to do that, and the pocket was really snug, trying to get things in and out. Those little folds on the side of the pocket will make it a lot easier to get things in and out. And now I've got my circle rounder over here. I remembered to use that before the glue set. I ripped that back up and then glued down the front one. And then the other half, that smaller half, just makes the pocket on the back cover of the folio. I added a couple small pieces of ephemera back there. Then ink up the whole project. I decided I wanted a lot darker than what I had started. So go back over the cover a little. And then I'm thinking, what can we do with the rest of this? I like using these larger journaling cards as double-sided journaling cards, gluing them shut in half and rounding the corners. I did most of that off camera. I got those glued shut, rounded, and inked them up. And a couple of them I trimmed down. I held things up to the pocket, and this one I cut shorter and more narrow to fit in the pocket on the back cover. So I held them up and trimmed each one to fit in the various pockets. And this one on the front cover, I like to use this piece. I did it on one of them. I thought it looked good, so I'm doing it on, on all of these that I make now, as long as I remember the idea. I just love the way that shape looks at the top of the tag. And then I take this tag piece here and use that to line the bag. I overlap it a little bit on the back so that it doesn't want to bend. If I just joined them and butted them up against each other, it would want to bend and fold there. So by overlapping this piece, we've made it more sturdy and covered the back. Then I'll just trim up some of the edges here. Sorry, it's not in frame there. I was holding that up to my face so I could see it. And then I think we'll put another piece again just to reinforce that. And I like the way it looks. Kind of cover up the seam and put a Band-Aid to reinforce that join right there. Make it nice and sturdy, since that's what we'll be pulling it in and out of the pocket. And I don't want that to start to bend and get weird. I ink up all the edges of that new piece that we added. And this should fit in the pocket on the front cover. And you could use whichever one of these that you like to fit in the pocket on the front cover. I just think that looks nice. And then I have this blue polyester lace. And it's double lace, and I like that so that I can tear it into 2 strips. So my 50-yard roll really gets me 100 yards. And of the colors I had, it was almost exactly a year since I bought the lace. I went through 100 yards of every color. First, I went through the black and the cream first, and then pink and blue were pink, blue, and white are the ones that ran out last. And just tying a bow. So I like, if you use the tiny hole punch, I find that it's less likely to rip. And then these are doubled over card, so they're nice and sturdy. I think that bow might look better going the other way. That's a nice thing about double-sided cards. You just flip that around, put it in the pocket the other way. This is looking really good, isn't it? I don't know if you're excited, but I'm getting excited about how this is looking. This was so much fun. I just sat the first time, printed it out, didn't really have a plan aside from thought to fold that first piece up the way I did, and then just use the ephemera to make more pockets and fill the pockets. But it was so fun that instead of doing like what I had planned to craft on that afternoon, once I printed it out, I was just so inspired and had so much fun making it. I think I sat and made like 3 of them because, I thought I just picked different cards and made them slightly different. I knew I had a couple custom orders going, and I knew these would look nice in the custom orders. So one is like the free gift that comes with the what is it? I put one in the teddy bear journal. The one that we're making here, the one that we make today, is the one that goes with the teddy bear journal as the free gift to add more value and just, make it more special. And then I made another one to go with a dollhouse journal that was a custom order that I went way overboard. I had so much fun. It's been a while since I've made one of those. And I went back and watched the video of the one I made previously, and I feel like I really knocked it out of the park. I repeated the cover pretty much as close to the same as I could get, because usually that's really important to people. And then, after that, just used the same things and then added way more, at least the same things, and then way more. So that's nice. If you ever think about getting a custom order and you're worried it won't be as nice, I'm always afraid it won't be as nice. And so I tend to go overboard and then make it bigger, better, badder. So yeah. And usually I agree to do it for the same price because I'm planning on doing it the same and not going overboard. And then, I stick to the same price, even though I go way overboard. So I'm thinking I'd like to have another journaling card. I think I miscounted. I made 4, and it actually takes 5 of these double-sided, these bigger cards folded over, glued shut. I love that. It just makes them nice and thick and sturdy. And then there we go. We can put one in the flap pocket, the left-facing flapping pocket, just because I'm hand cutting these, and then when I fold it over, it's not quite perfect. I'm just going to trim that down so the edges are neat, and then put that in. I think I forget to ink it here, but later I do come back, ink it, punch a hole, add a bow. Oh, no, look, it looks like I'm remembering to do it now. As I said, I did sit and make I think 3 of them because I had so much fun with the first one. I get really excited. I'm like, wow, that was fun. This is really cool. That didn't take very long. It only took about an hour. So, let's make another one. And then, yeah. So this one I decided just to give it little ties to use up that scrap. It wasn't going to be long enough. I didn't want to waste the scrap. So I just made it little ties and then tuck that in there behind the other stuff. So this is really packed full of ephemera. We use it's 10 pages. I didn't mention that. The ephemera kit is a 10-page ephemera kit. And I had 2 pages left over from the folio I made before. 2 of those little cards, I mean. So one of these, I thought, why don't we fold this into an envelope shape and use that to hold some of the smaller ephemera that we haven't used yet? Because I have a few small pieces of ephemera here. A couple of them were left over from one I had made before. I went back and then improved it to make it as good as the one that we made here. But the prototype wasn't as elaborate because I came up with a bunch of ideas while I was making this one. And then went back and added to that one. Like this envelope idea, that floating pocket. That just happened because I was tapping them together to share glue and then thought of the idea during the filming process. So I'm just going to tuck all of the tiny little pieces of ephemera into this, and then let's look for a place. I think I want it to go over the flap up like this. And again, in a second here, I'll notice that it's not in frame, and I'll scooch it up so that you can see better what I'm doing. Let me get this glued down, and then I think that's when I look up to make sure that you can see what I'm doing. I have Art Glitter brand glue in my glue dispenser. I like it because it dries almost instantly with almost no wait time. It'll be stuck down good and held in place. There's some glue seeping out, and then put the things back in the pocket. You can really see how much stuff I packed in there. A little flapping up pocket. I don't think I like the way that sticks out there. Let me turn this around and have the bow on the other side. That's better. And then I'm not sure. I consider adding a pocket to the front, but it's getting a little bulky. Our folio is pretty bulky already. And I still have that plan I want to do with these, with the circles. I think the little ones I'll just tie together with a bow. I'll punch a hole and I'll just ring them all together with a bow. Let me ink these up together really quickly. The lazy way, where they're all on a stack. And then punch a hole and tie them together with some ribbon. I'll speed this up a little. Okay, so I just tucked that over the edge of that tuck spot. And with one of these other tall, narrow pieces, I decide I want to make something that looks like a matchbook cover. And I'm really just winging it here. You start with a 1/2 inch and then fold the other piece down so that it doesn't quite meet the crease. I had to pause and run and get my stapler, which is, of course, empty. Isn't that always the way? That's okay. The staples are right here, so I'll just grab some staples and refill it, and then then we can staple this down. But what I was trying to say was you want to fold that piece over so that it doesn't fully meet the crease at the bottom, or when we add our staples, we would staple it shut. So you want to staple it far enough, you know, just as close to that bottom crease as you can get so that the flap still comes in and out. And then I think what we can do is we can take some tea stain paper. I'll just get a sheet of tea stain paper and just, again, eyeballing it. I'm not measuring or scoring anything. I know when I was a beginner, I hated that. If I saw somebody get out the scoreboard, that was it for me. Okay, sorry about that. Usually I have my ringer off. I was expecting a call, and as usual, I get all carried away and forget what I'm doing because I can't sit still and just wait for something. So I'm like, oh, I'm waiting for somebody to call. Let me do something else. Forgetting, oh, wait, that call is going to ring into your voiceover here, but that's okay. This microphone's pretty good, and even though my phone was right next to me and was blaring in my ear, in the playback it sounded pretty quiet. So I just eyeballed it. I held it up there to see how wide it needed to be. I think I still got it too wide, so I just trim it down a little more, and then held it up to see how long I wanted it, and then just cut it down to fit. This is how I normally work. All of the instructions and measuring happen so that I can share it with you because I think that's important to a lot of people. So getting out the scoreboard and things like that, I definitely do that. You know, scoring the edge of things to make pockets and things. I'll grab my scoreboard. We use our stapler to just staple those pages into the middle of the matchbook. We want them shorter than that flap. And then just tuck it shut. And then I'm thinking, now where are we going to put this? Let's make it an embellished paper clip. So I'm using this piece of ephemera. It's one of the ephemera pieces, this little strip here, and just tuck it on my paper clip. The main thing is we need some to glue paper to paper. So if we glue this to the part of the paper clip, then we can glue the paper backing to our little matchbook that we made and then turn it into a paper clip so that we can clip that wherever we want now. Once we get this glued together and turned into a paper clip. And if we wanted it to stick up off the edge of the page, we would just put the clip lower onto the back of this But we just glue it down, and it would be better if I waited longer to let the glue dry, but I don't. And then I play around with where I want to clip it on. That makes that too bulky. I don't like that there. So the outside pocket is probably a better spot so that it doesn't add any bulk to the inside. And then just clip that on to the pocket or wherever, you know. You could use it somewhere else on your project. And then I have the rest of these large circles. I think a couple might look nice in the pockets, but let's add some paper to this and make like a real little notepad. I'll speed this up. First, I'm going to ink them up, and then I'll trace it out and cut out some paper. I mostly just added the paper because that scrap was on my desk, and that's my favorite way to scrap bust, is to just use it up while I'm making the project. Just use up everything that I can and try to no scrap left behind. That's my goal. Cut them into tabs to use later, whatever it takes. Use those scraps up. I think I've given this tip before, but it is the best tip. Then you don't have to organize, keep the scraps. Remember to get the scraps out later to use them. Just use them up while you're in the project and recycle everything else. So I used a paper clip to kind of clip everything together, and I leafed them together so that there was a cardstock, paper cardstock, something like that, you know, just to make it interesting. And this time we're going to use our cropadile and an eyelet to ring these together so that they'll swing out. You can rotate them and swing them out. I'll show you that. I got these off-brand eyelets, and they're just a hair, just a fraction of a hair bigger than the Memory Keepers ones, and they're a little bit harder to get pushed through things, but I made it happen. Okay, so here we go. So you can open it like that to write on it and use it, or you could just, you know, bend it and flip it up if you wanted. I thought that was kind of cool. You could leave it like that, maybe. It won't fit in our folio very good that way. So anyways, so here's our little circle notebook. I think it could probably use a bow. And then I think our folio just needs some type of a closure. We've got it pretty bulky, so I'd like to have something, you know, have it tied shut. So let's get a bow on here. I'll get some ribbon and everything, and then we can get this wrapped up. I hope you're really happy with how this came out. As I've already said, I had so much fun making this that I sat and made a few of them. I think it may be a great gift idea because it does just take an hour or two to make, and it's a nice little piece, a nice little chunky stationery piece that people would like if people like stationery or writing. The kind of person who sends you a Hallmark card for your birthday or holidays is probably the kind of person who would enjoy something like this. So I do end up with a couple pieces I don't use. That piece looks Christmassy to me, and that doesn't quite fit. I could add another pocket here to use up the rest of the ephemera, but it feels done to me. So I started with a few leftover pieces from the previous kit, so I at least used one entire kit full of ephemera and some of the leftover from the previous one. But yeah, let's glue this shut and make this into a smaller tag, a smaller double-sided tag. That's easy to use. We could make another matchbook with it. I had a couple ideas. We could make a small little envelope out of it. But small tags seemed the easiest, and just add all of the small pieces that we had left to the envelope or to some of the small pockets and tuck spots. I really like adding folios to the journals, either as part of the journal set when I'm originally making it, or if it's a, you know, pretty fat kind of pricey journal, then I would include this as a free gift, a thank you gift later. So they maybe wouldn't know that this was coming with it. And then later, you know, when they unwrap it, it'll be packaged separately with a little thank you sticker on it. And then they, you know, unwrap it. And so, like, one of my custom orders, I know she was buying it, the journal, to give as a gift. And then I thought, she could either gift the folio to the same person, or she could keep this for herself and still, gift the project that she bought to give as a gift. Something to keep and something to give, maybe. So I'm going to use my cropadile to punch a hole on the edge here, carefully avoiding the pockets on the front and back of the cover. I took the tag out just in case I clipped that pocket, which I didn't, thankfully. And get our eyelet through there and smash down and some ribbon on this, and it's done. I hope you'll check this out, and if you make the project, please tag me in it, and remember, you get half off at Bontik Vintage Design Shop with the code PAPERMOON50. As always, have a great day, and thank you so much for watching.